Hey guys, welcome back to Defeating Hair Loss. My name is Steve. I'm here with all the information you could ever imagine about hair loss, hair preventative maintenance from hair loss, hair restoration, hair transplants, hair implants, cool hair, not so cool hair, bald guys, all that stuff. Happy to have you back, and just the content just keeps coming and coming. I wanted to share with you things that I have kind of gathered over the last, 20, 25 years. Kind of like an inside the industry kind of tips and suggestions, things that I hear constantly. And as a consumer, as a patient in this case, and as a potential hair transplant patient, we want to talk about things to avoid, things to look for, things to use, what are scams, who's out there that's good and not good, and all that stuff. And that's what this channel is all about. So the tips that I have for you is, I just kind of narrowed it down to 5. And this is not going to make too much sense, but I'm going to try to explain myself. So the 5 things are: number 1 is everybody I talk to, and I have a boatload of patients out there, super happy patients. I've been around this country and been dealing with hair loss for so many years, but everybody I talk to, once their hair grows in, it takes anywhere from a year to 18 months, always tells me I should have done it sooner. Always. They're like, Steve, I am so thankful. I'm thankful for your doctor. I'm thankful for the staff. I'm thankful for the medication. And now I can go on with my life, and you've been a great resource, but I should have done it sooner. So that's number 1. So if you're out there thinking about it, you might want to do it sooner versus later. And I'm not one of those pushy guys, so that does not meant to be that way. Number 2 is I've dealt a lot with very, what do I say, exclusive. I'm not really one of those like people that chase celebrities and get all excited. I mean, I've dealt with some of the top A-listers in Los Angeles when I was working out there. But they're just, to me, they're just another person with hair loss that I need to help for obvious reasons. But I've dealt with a lot of investment people. When I say that, guys driving up in Ferraris, Maseratis. I mean, not that a car means you're super wealthy, but it's a pretty good start when they're, a couple $100,000 for a vehicle. And those guys have told me, Steve, I've been around the world. I've made a lot of money. I don't have to work anymore. But guess what? The best investment I ever made was this hair transplant that literally has changed my life. And that's very rewarding for me, because these guys obviously, they're going to have a good life, whether they have hair or they don't. I used to fly to New York from Fort Lauderdale every Monday and back every Friday for 3 years. And I was a platinum, on Continental, so I was always sitting in first class when these guys probably paid for their seats. And a lot of them were bald. And I had a lot of conversations with them, and a lot of them actually went through with the procedure and were very pleased. So coming from real top-end finance guys to tell me it's the best investment they ever made really makes me feel like I'm doing my job. Number 3. This probably should have been number 1. It's never a good time to do a hair transplant. Think about that. It's never a good time to do a hair transplant. What do I mean by that? Well, for obvious reasons. It takes a little recovery, and you look kind of goofy, and you probably have to wear a baseball hat. By the way, it's never a good time to do a hair transplant unless we have a pandemic, a 100-year pandemic. Then it's a great time to do a hair transplant. Outside of the pandemic era, you've got to figure out a way to kind of, to be fair, I would say it depends on the procedure, but I'd probably say at least 10 to 12 days, unless you don't have a problem with people seeing you, meaning knowing you had something done. About 10 to 12 days, you're pretty much back in business. If you choose FUE, of course, everything's going to be shaved, so it'll look like you had a real short haircut. So we'll talk about haircuts in other videos and how to kind of get away with that. But that is, probably my number 1. It's never a good time for a hair transplant. This is kind of a inside thing that the number 4, you be careful with this. I've worked with doctors that own businesses that do hair transplants. I've worked with businessmen that own businesses that do hair transplants. Why I say it that way is if it's multiple locations and there's a lot of payroll, it's more of a sales organization. Now listen, this is not me knocking bigger companies and people that are calling you up and telling you that, you should do this next week and they'll discount you and all this and that. That is not the intention. The intention is that some of these doctors are more driven by the money than they are about who they should be doing surgery on. I pride myself on working with Dr. Dan McGrath a lot, and we turn away together as a team about 85%. Now that doesn't mean we're pompous or we're condescending or rich. It just means that these patients could probably do better if they went on medication and waited a while, or if they just took their time So be careful with that whole like rushing thing. So the point is, number 4 is some of these doctors never saw a head they didn't like. Certain countries out there in the world, they never saw a head they didn't like. Everybody's a candidate. I'm turning away 85%, but call this country, email back and forth your photos on WhatsApp, and guess what? You're a candidate. So I disagree with that. So that's number 4. They never saw a head they didn't like. Number 5 is actually my favorite. My favorite is it's easier to keep what you have than get back what you lost. Now, if you've seen a few of my other videos, you know that I am not in this for any kind of revenue purposes. I'm not into this to kind of get myself more publicity or, be that YouTuber guy that has so many people following him that it's, can sell all these products. I don't even know how it works. The bottom line is that I'm here to help you stop your hair from falling out. And there's not a lot of money in that, period. That's why there's not a lot out there on getting on this medication. There's more about doing transplants because that's where the money is. I don't care. I'm all about the patient. I'm all about treating people fairly because that's how I expected to be treated. So my favorite saying of all, number 5, is it's easier to keep what you have than get back what you lost. You need to make a move as soon as possible when you either have a family member that's bald and you feel you look like them, like facially, and you're going to go bald if you're young. Get on that medication. It's a preventative treatment. If you're starting to lose your hair, like my buddy Bobby D, and he's just losing in the front, he caught it in time, he got on the medication, now he's got pretty much a full head of hair except that front edge hairline, which he's had transplanted, super successful. David DiMuzio, another friend of mine, huge YouTuber, that we spent a lot of time working with him, was bald. So there's differences, but at the same time, David DiMuzio needed to keep his hair stronger for the procedures. David DiMuzio needed to keep that crown from going like this to this. So again, it's easier to keep that hair in your head you have now, the majority of it, than to get back what you've lost. Keep that in mind. So these are my 5 tips when you're researching hair transplants, when you're researching solutions for hair loss, when you're researching or Googling the word hair, 2 words, hair loss anyway. Think about these things, and thank you for watching the videos, and don't forget to like and subscribe.